Sickers and Price for Monday, September 15th, 2025, a presentation of Bet365. We're coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or your local Pacific Toyota dealer. Go visit them. Matt Sickers alongside Blake Price, four-time Juno Award winner Mike Rogerson, hitting switches, conducting things with intern Braden Goodman. We have a big show planned for you today. First of all, how was your weekend?
I worked all weekend, but it was still fun. Went and did a game out east, and then quickly turned on the TV to watch the Whitecaps match. And I don't think the Montreal bar knew why we were screaming at midnight at a soccer match on TV.
Yeah, probably not.
We had to explain and point at the score. This is a soccer match, and it's 7-0.
Well, the good news is you got all that shouting out before they were just sitting down for dinner in Montreal.
That's
around
right.
Midnight, right?
They were honestly, it was a group of people at a convention in tuxedos, and they were doing a wardrobe change into civvies and then going out on the town. Vive le Quebec.
I'm guessing your weekend wasn't as good as Mike's weekend. Oh, boy, did Mike have a weekend.
He ripped it up after the Whitecaps match, I think. Yeah.
He ripped it up during the Whitecaps match. What do you have to say for yourself?
Canadian Grand Slam this weekend.
Yeah, that's right.
Dry September is not a thing.
CFL football, Whitecap. I had a marvelous, splendid weekend. We golfed on Friday, made it to the Lions game.
Which
Saturday,
was also a dominant win. A couple of dominant wins under
we'll
the
get
dome.
Into that as well.
Yeah.
Saturday, met a colleague from out of town. He's a big footy guy. We went to commercial, went into one of these Italian cafes, just caught the end of UV Inter, where tremendous comeback from UV and Jonathan David featured, so that was good fun. Watched some of those extraordinary college football games Saturday, and then the fight, Canelo Crawford and the Whitecaps. So much was happening.
Honestly, we always talk about April, and April is damn good.
Yeah, it is.
But September, October can be pretty
right
damn good, too.
Everything was going swimmingly until this morning. Got shat on by a bird.
Did you? Good luck, apparently.
Just outside here, actually.
Buy a lottery ticket. Supposed to be good luck.
Somewhere way up in the tree. I didn't even see the bird.
One time I had it happen twice in like a 2-week period. Still, no good luck. None.
It's supposed to be good luck because it is principally a bad luck thing when you're cleaning bird waste off of your... Do you know that birds, their waste is 2 in 1?
Yes. That's why it looks like a fried egg.
That's right.
A little bit of this, a little bit of that.
They are very good processors, like Terrence Crawford was against Canelo. Very good processors.
It's always so surprising. You're never sure what has happened.
Exactly. Well, this one was pretty clear.
Yeah, it was pretty clear.
Like, I just got grazed from something on high. That really felt like bird shit. Sure enough, it was.
Yeah. Good times. Good times.
Let's get to our poll question presented by the Redwoods Golf Course. Which Canucks prospect are you most excited about? You can vote Braden Cootes, their first-rounder 2025. You can vote Jonathan Lekkerimäki, their first-rounder 2022. You can vote Tom Willander. That's the other thing. We're going to have to get it straight from him. Do you want Willander or do you want Willander? Canucks first-round pick 2023. You can vote other if you do specify in reply. Asking this because the prospect showcase down the I-5 this weekend. We'll get to the particulars in a moment. But first, answers, Blake Price.
Well, I think you have to sort of project them and then decide, I guess you have to be realistic about, the chances of them reaching their projection. But also just like, what's the best case scenario? So for a guy like Braden Cootes, if it's Ryan Kessler, for a guy like Jonathan Lekkerimäki, I don't know if it's Brock Besser. And then for a guy like Tom Willander, I don't even know what a good Canuck comparison is for Tom Willander. So Chris Tanev, a little more offensive than that, perhaps. But I'm going to go with the rarest of the birds. And we just know that, right shot defensemen do not grow on trees. So it's not been a strong suit for the organization. So I'm going to go with Tom Willander. And I think he's got maybe the best shot at being that projection over the other two guys. So I'm going to go Tom Willander.
He is the rarest of commodities, the scarcest in the National Hockey League. And if you can play that spot in a top 4 role, particularly if you can add something on the offensive side, as Willander figures to, as well as being a good skater and a good defensive player, that is probably going to be the most valuable property on the team of these guys.
Now, some people might fixate on the question in the word excited, and he might not play an exciting game. That's the difference.
So I'm slicing it a little bit that way.
Yeah.
I'm also just taking a shorter-term view on this.
Okay. Impatient view?
Well, I mean, that's one way to put it. Immediate gratification view. I mean, that's how the franchise is run, right? Like, the owner needs immediate gratification. So, no, but Cootes is going to play this year in junior. Willander, well, I suspect he'll play NHL games this year.
Smattering, yep.
You're behind Roenick and Myers on the right side. You're probably also behind Mancini in terms of pure right shot defenseman to start. Mancini's played NHL games as well, not to mention the fact Petey Forbert and Pierre-Olivier Joseph have all played some of the right side as lefties. So I just think it's tough sledding in the early going for Willander there. So I voted Lekkerimäki. And I vote Lekkerimäki in part because just I think he's the flashiest player of the lot.
That's fair.
But also, like, this is a winger group that he should break through, right? This is a winger group that at some point during this season, you sure hope Jonathan Lekkerimäki is amongst your 8 best that you're dressing every night. And then also because, and we talked about this last week too, Blake, Canucks are going to need goals. He is one of the few natural goal scorers in the organization. So I think they're going to have to be reliant on his offense a little bit at some point this year. Add it all up, and it's a vote for Lekkerimäki.
Well, I mean, there are only 2 goal-scoring wingers at the NHL level right now for the Vancouver Canucks. Connor Garland's a very nice player, but he's not a goal-scoring winger. He can add goals. Like, if I told you Connor Garland gets 22 goals, I think you'd take that right now. That's not a goal-scoring winger. That's just a contributing winger. You know, DeBrusk and Besser, they're goal-scoring wingers. But, you know, that's neither one of them is super prolific, A. And secondarily, that's only 2. So there's opportunity there for Lekkerimäki for sure.
Daily poll question brought to you by the Redwoods Golf Course. Blake and I are going to be out there tomorrow for a playing lesson on course with their pro Craig. Looking forward to that. We're going to film some of it as well, so you'll get to see how terrible we were and how great we are by the end. That's how this works, right?
Oh, it's
like
immediate.
You go for one win.
It's immediate.
It's immediate.
Yeah.
Gratification. We've been telling you about the after-school junior golf camps that are available and running through the late summer and early fall for kids ages 6 to 16. I'm told that the spots were snapped up, only a few left. So if you want to get in on the junior golf camps for your child, set them up for the sport of a lifetime. Get on that right away, redwoods-golf.com/instruction. If you miss out on that, the private and the semi-private junior lessons also available. Those are flexible to your schedule. We'll be telling you about the winter lessons that are available soon. Of course, they have the large covered and heated driving range at the Redwoods, and the course is dog-friendly. I have yet to encounter a dog on Redwoods. I'm hoping for that tomorrow because you know how I love me some dogs.
A little nugget from a sporting family such as mine. You know, these kids are at risk sometimes of being oversubscribed with their physicality. You know, oh, my kid plays soccer and hockey. My kid plays field hockey and volleyball. It can be a lot, but you know, it's not a cardio sport per se. It's a different kind of sport. It's another one you can add. So if your kid's playing rep hockey, they're kind of oversubscribed with their cardio all the week, but having a couple hours at the range and learning golf, the kid can do that.
And here's the thing. At some point in their hockey career, they will miss the playoffs. They will have tons of time to golf.
Yes.
We've learned that. Our top story brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing. So looking forward to getting to Penticton later this week for training camp and visiting the 2 outstanding downtown Penticton restaurants, brew pubs from Neighborhood, and Yellow Dog may even get out to Oliver and the Wine Village for Foolish Winery. Lekkerimäki scores, EPD hits, Willander struggles, Cootes gets hurt. So with the inaugural prospect showcase with the Seattle Kraken down the I-5. It was 2 games, one Saturday, one Sunday, one in Everett, one in Seattle. Cootes has dealt with injury throughout the summer, and he left Saturday's game in the third period after starting on that top line with Lekkerimäki on one flank and the hulking Swedish winger Vilmer Ulriksson on the other. Big Swede scored a beautiful goal, knifing through the defense. Good on him. They lost the first game 5-3 on Saturday. They won the second game 3-2 on Sunday. Now, Blake and I, and you'll hear from JPat on this later, all sort of cocked eyebrow when we saw that Elias Paterson, EPD, was assigned to this showcase. And I understand keeping him hungry and making sure he knows that nothing is going to be given to him in training camp, but he sure looked like an NHL player at the end of last year, so much so they did not assign him to Abbotsford for the Calder Cup playoff run. I think he is in ink on the Canucks opening night roster, if not lineup, and yet was dispatched to this tournament where he blew up Kraken forward Jagger Firkus with a big hit. He looked a little shaken up thereafter. Maybe he was taking out his oh, you want me to play in this tournament? Okay, I'll show someone over there. Lekkerimäki scored yesterday after not exactly standing out on Saturday. Willander also bounced back after a difficult
standing out in the wrong way
on Saturday. Yeah, he was beat on the game-tying goal. A big giveaway in the second period created a 2-on-0 against. I saw Thomas Drance write that he's got to get better on his retrievals under pressure. We talk about this with European defensemen often, that forechecking with menace is not really something you see in the European game on the bigger ice. Of course, Willander's played in the NCAA the last couple of years, so he should be a little bit more accustomed to that style. Anyways, he's going to need to be a whole lot better than that to make the club out of camp.
I think it's a good time for him to just shake the rust off and remind himself what a semblance of this will look like here come training camp. Yeah, he's played North American hockey, so that's not going to be an eye-opener for him. He's played against men in their mid-20s, so he's used to some size as well. I'll say this, I'm just guessing. I think there might have been a sense for him that this should be pretty easy here this weekend. I've got a deeper resume than a lot of these guys. There might have been that. But the good news is, if he thought that going in, he's certainly not thinking that coming out, because I think he realized, the standard here, pretty good still. And when you get the top prospects in NHL organizations all on one ice. So I think he's had his eyes opened a little bit here going into training camp, and I suspect that you'll see the best of him going forward. We should mention, too, clarifying Cootes, the Canucks were very clear. Super precautionary.
Yes.
Probably not hurt, more concerned about some sort of feeling, and they say he's ready to go for training camp.
Well, anybody who got knocked over the weekend was shut down precautionary. Riley Paterson, 4th-round pick in 2024 with a couple of points Sunday. He's a right-shot centerman with the OHL's Barrie Colts. Our friend Dave Hall from Canucks Army, and you ought to read Dave Hall on Canucks Army, covering Vancouver prospects far and wide. Really, he thought Ulriksson was the standout for the Canucks. And you may remember Ulriksson had a fantastic Young Stars tournament last year, too, in Penticton. Dave liked Alexei Medvedev, the second-round goaltender from this past draft, who will be the starter for the OHL champion London Knights. Dave said he was terrific despite allowing the 4 goals. Dave's intrigued by Gabe Sherrod. He's a 6th-round forward from this past draft in the OHL. He was really shining in OHL preseason. He's with the Brampton Steelheads. And then, of course, Steve Petey. Aku Koskenvo, 5th-round pick way back in 2021. The Finnish defenseman, now done at Harvard University, stopped 21 shots, including a couple of late barrages from the Seattle Kraken prospects. We're going to hear from Manny Malhotra here in a second. It does look pretty cut and dry for the Vancouver Canucks creases, plural, organizationally this year. We know about Demko and Lankinen with the big club. The AHL's Abbotsford Canucks expected to run Nikita Tolopilo, the big Belarusian who got in some NHL action late last year, as well as Ty Young, the former Prince George Cougar, who took a nice step, as well as Yuri Patera, who's break glass in case of emergency. He's played NHL games. So that likely means Aku Koskinvuo is your starter in the ECHL, but we'll see how all of this goes. Head coach of the Calder Cup champion Abbotsford Canucks, Manny Malhotra, asked about all the goaltending depth in this organization after the game. Here's Manny.
It's obviously a very good problem to have. The fact that, as we talk about all the time, a sign of a healthy organization is when there are players battling for position. So for us, having that internal competition at the goaltending position is great. Those guys push one another on a daily basis in practice, and then very similar to what you saw this weekend, where one guy gets a start one night, he can the next guy gets the next start. They can focus on their own game, and I feel that's been a good process and a good recipe for us.
Yeah, it sure has.
And it was either Quads or Dave Hall that was saying, by the way, that Alexei Medvedev let in 4 goals on Saturday. They said, don't let that dissuade you. He's the only reason why it wasn't a 7 spot, that he was making acrobatic save upon acrobatic save as the Canucks left him high and dry at times on odd man rushes, including a 2-on-0 that he stopped. So, yeah, they're in good shape. It's pretty exciting for Canucks fans. Now, at the same time, like, they've got 2 NHL guys that are theoretically ironclad for a half decade still.
Right.
There's not an availability for a half decade.
Well, that's if they perform as expected and nobody gets traded. So you could be very well looking at an Archer She-Loves path here if you're one of these Canucks goaltending prospects.
Like, even if one doesn't work out, even if somebody kind of burns out and is not what we expect, there is the other guy. So, like, the chances of both of these guys. Now, I got chastised one time long ago by Rick Ball for suggesting that both Luongo and Schneider would depart in relatively short order. He thought I was crazy, and that happened. So I guess you never say never. But the fact that
I would have also thought that crazy.
But to see that happen twice in 15 years, that would seem crazy.
Well,
times 2.
Here's the way I look at it. Collect as many good goaltending prospects as you can while Ian Clark is still a member of the organization. Because I imagine the day is coming where Ian Clark is going to depart once again after being demoted last year.
Well, here's the other part. He
has been a great resource for you in terms of stocking this goaltender pipeline with these good players. We saw Artur Shelovs. We saw what he did at the HL level and in the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, and the fact that he returned an asset via trade this year.
Here's the other possibility where this helps the Canucks. As we've seen with this sport, it's cyclical. One thing is in fashion, one thing works, and then it's another thing, and it all migrates. Goalies are a weird market right now. It's not a huge market. Maybe not too far down the road here, Matt. Maybe in the next 5 years, goaltending gets treated a little bit differently. Maybe scoring goes down, the value of goaltending goes up, and all of a sudden having a bank full of goalies will do the Canucks some good in the not too distant future as well. So you never know.
Yeah, scoring goes down, value of goalies.
Oh, if scoring goes down because goaltending becomes so valuable.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Right now, everybody's just...
Let's hope for scoring going up, everybody.
Right now, everybody's scoring. So I think there's teams, Matt, that are just like, as long as we get average goaltending, it's fine. We're going to outscore our problems. Our offense is so good. I look at the team in Alberta, Northern Alberta. If it goes the other way, then everybody's like, oh, we got to have good goaltending. We can't be the one team giving up goals.
More on goaltending here in a moment. It was a busy weekend of goaltender news. For those of you watching on YouTube, we would like to encourage you to find and push that super chat button. If you've got a question for Blake, myself, something to add to the discussion here, we're going to be pushing the super chats a little bit more this season. And Last year, we told you we were donating partial proceeds to the BC Mental Health Foundation. We decided just to take it all and give it to the BC Mental Health Foundation. So that's coming on up. If any of you have anything to add on this side of thing, on the Super Chat side, please do, with your donation going to the BC Mental Health Foundation. We'll be in Penticton for Yellow Dog and for Neighborhood, what they got going on this week.
Well, they're just rolling out the red carpet. They had to go into the storage and find the red carpet, knowing that we were coming.
Would it not be a yellow carpet?
No, it's a red carpet. It's a red carpet. They've got a yellow carpet there already. That's inside, but the walk-in is red. That's what you do. 2 different beers on sale for the month of September. We're halfway through. You still got 2 weeks to take advantage. On special for the month, Yellow Dog's Play Dead IPA, the big banger in the tall cans. And then the Chase My Tail 12-pack lagers. Chase My Tail Pale Ale. 12 packs, small cans. Also on sale for the month of September. Go pick them up at your favorite government or private liquor store.
A provocative column from Patrick Johnston of the Province and Post Media. Management is in the hot seat, with PJ speaking to an anonymous source who says if this team struggles out of the gate by Christmas, there will be a management change predicted. This source to Patrick Johnson. The source went on to say Patrick isn't a pushover. He won't bend if he believes in something. And fair enough, but he did bend the knee to ownership's desires to keep the playoff hunt alive last year at the trade deadline in the pursuit of playoff revenue. That's why they didn't trade the UFAs. I'd also be interested to know if Evander Kane was his idea, because I don't think so, given his relationship with the Canucks owner. So I do think it's possible that Alvin has already bent knee a couple of times to Canucks ownership. Whether he will continue to, or whether he's going to draw a line in the sand here. And remember, last year he was talking about the trade deadline being a deadline for getting Brock Besser under contract. Didn't come to pass. Besser is still here anyway. But
does this shock you to hear that? Because it shocks me.
Absolutely not.
It shocks me.
No. I think if the Canucks do poorly to start this season, I think a head will have to roll, and I suspect it will be Alvin unless Rutherford decides to fall on the sword and retire.
I could see that before anything else. But no, in terms of actual firings taking part, and here's why is, from the outside anyway, only they know exactly whose ideas are whose ideas. But it is so confusing for an outsider to look upon.
But it doesn't matter. Like, the GM has to wear them, though, one way or the other.
Well, it depends on the mole. I don't think people looking at Vancouver say that is the case. I think people look at that and say, this is Jim Rutherford's bus. He has to wear it.
Jim put both hands back on the wheel late last season. Of that, there's no doubt, after everything went to hell in the dressing room.
So whose decisions are whose? That's why I think
always
it's
fair, Blake. Sometimes the guy with the least amount of input has to walk the plank.
100%. But we've also seen this same ownership group hold on to the last guy.
Right.
For a decade of losing and incompetency.
I think that's why the leash is shorter on this one, in part because Francesco did acknowledge when they finally fired Jim Benning that they had waited too long. So I think you have an owner who recognizes waited too long on the last guy, have to make sure I make the move if things start going south. And this year, the other thing is I think their customers are going to need something. Whether it's a scalp, whether it's just a reset belief that things can improve if things are going poorly at midseason for the Canucks.
And learning your lesson and not doing what you just did is one thing. But this guy's been GM for 3 years. So you're going from, I'll give you a decade to figure it out, to I'll give you 3 years. Like, that's a heavy swing in the other direction.
Yeah.
And they don't like to pay people for not working.
Yeah.
I would be, and I'm talking midseason. Mid-season, at the end of season, different story. A mid-season firing, I would be blown away. Blown away.
Okay, so then play it out for me, Blake. They're 10 points out of a playoff spot at the Christmas break. You're standing pat?
I think they shake up the roster.
Well, I think they're going to do that regardless. I mean, I think you're looking to get better. They're looking for a second line center.
Yeah. So I mean,
I don't think you're looking at a quick hook for Adam Foote, although he is a lightly experienced coach, particularly head coach, first time NHL.
and they got Manny Malhotra waiting in the wings. They were able to dodge that bullet of being poached of Manny Malhotra.
Yeah.
So they do have that option. Guy with more head coaching experience at the very least than Adam Foote.
So do you think that Foote would be more in peril than
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Already, yeah?
Yeah, because he's a carryover, right? So they can say, no, we're not firing this guy early. He's been here. He was part of the last guy, the last group.
Shades of Bill LaForge in 84.
Well, not 8 games or whatever it
Poor
was.
guy got 20 games, 4-14-2. That was it. You're out. In comes Harry Neal. Anyways, no, I do wonder who would walk the plank if they need somebody to walk the plank if things go poorly. The reason I wonder about Alvin, Ryan Johnson has done a pretty good job, right, as general manager of the Abbotsford Canucks. Rutherford has spoken glowingly about him, really relied on him in his early days here in the franchise, because you'll remember that Alvin came a couple of months later after Rutherford. So do you feel like you have the ready-made replacement in-house for your GM, much like you might feel the same way about the head coach with Manny sitting in the wings?
See, the other thing I see is the reaction to the Jim Benning era is I'm going to hire pedigreed hockey guys. And so I don't know that the distrust in pedigreed hockey guys erodes in 3.5 years. You know, I think you gave the rookie guy a decade. The pedigreed hockey guys might.
Well, Alvin was a rookie GM.
Well, again, though, it's sort of like, are you separating Alvin
served
from
a long
Rutherford?
apprenticeship, but so did Benning, too.
Yeah. But Rutherford's still there. Like, Rutherford's the guy in charge. And now, if Rutherford and Alvin have some sort of philosophical difference, all bets are off. But in terms of just performance-related, like Trevor Linden didn't, quote-unquote, deserve to leave the organization. But there was just a fundamental philosophical difference that pushed him out the door.
Well, and that fundamental philosophical difference might be, do you have free reign to do as you please as the general manager, or do you have to satisfy constituencies on high?
I guess I would look at the Canucks roster right now and say, like, it was so easy, Matt, for much of that decade under Benning to look at the roster and go, like, that's a terrible contract. That guy can't be here. That's like, why are you doing that? You look at this roster. Do you want to tear up anything that's been signed? Like, they're not good enough. They don't have depth at the right positions. But there's also not been gross missteps that leap off the page either.
Yep. That's fair.
But it's just hard to pick apart.
Yeah. I mean, the bar isn't, are you making gross managerial missteps?
Oh, no, it's true.
One should aspire for a level of competence.
Okay, let me ask you this.
Much greater than that.
Where should the Canucks, and you can't necessarily say in free agency because you're not in control in free agency. The player's allowed to choose wherever he wants to go. Is there an obvious, hey, they zigged here and they should have zagged?
For Rutherford and Alvin?
Yeah.
Oh, I think they absolutely should have sold at the trade deadline last year. Yeah. But again, I think their hands were tied by an owner who wanted to make the playoffs.
There's that, and also I just I don't like Alvin's answer about what the return on for Besser was going to be, but at the same time, the return on Besser wasn't going to be franchise changing.
Well, but the return on Besser, if you were willing to take futures, would have been good for the franchise.
Right. Yeah. But I'm saying it doesn't change the price of bread today about how good this team will be this season.
Probably not.
Right.
No, not unless they were able to take those futures.
So I'm just trying to find
them into a second line center.
What I'm saying is how far from this current universe do we have to go to find a world where the Canucks are super competitive right now? I think you have to go pretty far. Like, you know?
Yeah, well, 2 years ago, I mean, that was a rabbit out of the hat. Like, to get that sort of season from a team that had been that bad and who, let's face it, still had some holes on the club. They instantaneously turned from a dreadful defensive team with dreadful defensive coverage into a team whereby the strength, the pillar, was good five-skater team defense in front of excellent goaltending.
Let's face it, the biggest thing to undo the Canucks has been the Müller Paterson thing. This team is in a lot better shape if they are best buddies and playing their best hockey.
But also a lack of talent in key spots. Like last year it was on defense, and this year it's at center ice. So
right, but presumably you could have tried to tweak that defense at the end of last year, with Müller and Paterson under the fold.
You could have, yeah.
And that's
like if Paterson and Müller are getting along,
yeah,
the trades you make on defense look a lot different than Marcus Paterson after cashing in JT Miller with the Rangers.
Well, you still might be in it.
You're adding an NHL defenseman or two, probably at the cost of some futures, I would think.
I still think they acquire Marcus Paterson, hell or high water, even if Miller and Paterson are here. I think they like that player a lot.
That's fair enough.
They'd probably go after that guy anyway.
Right.
At a different cost.
Just not after, not with the Rangers draft pick you said.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Going to the football game on Friday, I was like, boy, it's busy here on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Bryan Adams playing next door.
Really? That was quiet. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I heard about it. Sort of wanted to go, but there's so much going on.
On Friday. That's a big weekend then, Brad.
Yeah.
The Comedy Fest all weekend as well at Stanley Park.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Evander Kane joined him on stage, new Vancouver Canuck, to celebrate, we're coming up on 30 years of Rogers Arena, nay, GM Place.
One of the most underrated concerts I've ever been to was the Olympic Bryan Adams concert, because I don't count myself as a Bryan Adams fan per se, but
how can you not?
I
like
recognize that he's a legend.
Such a music.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying.
Snob.
I would never get into my car and put on Bryan Adams.
Well, because it's on the radio at all times.
I don't listen to the radio. So
he has been on the radio for decades.
Yes.
You at one time listened to the radio in your car and you heard Bryan Adams.
But I heard one song. Summer of '69. But anyway, it was very good. He was a good showman. He wowed me. I was very entertained.
Have you told Bruce? You should tell Bruce.
I think I did tell him once. I think I did, yeah.
Lots of goalie news on the weekend. Mentioned this earlier. Chicago betting on Spencer Knight after acquiring him from the Florida Panthers last season, 3 by 5.8. Told there is lots of interest in Carter Hart, the former Philadelphia Flyer and Canadian World Junior goaltender, who is amongst the 5 Canadian players to be acquitted in a London court of sexual assault charges. He's eligible to sign October 15th, play December 1st, although the insiders seem to think it's going to be a done deal. Like he's going to be wrapped up and signed by the end of this month to somebody. Philadelphia trades 6'7" goaltending prospect Ivan Fedotov to Columbus for a draft pick. Everybody drawing the parallel that, once upon a time, Philly sent a relatively young, not yet name brand made NHL entity Russian goaltender to Columbus. He turned out to be Sergei Bobrovsky. Won a couple of cups and a bunch of Vezina. He's got a busy mantle. So that interesting from Rick Tocchet's new team. And that's the kid they waited on to do Russian military service or something like that. Right? Plus he's 6'7". And then Washington Capitals goaltender coach Mitch Love, who along with Ian Clark, I think is probably the most known goaltender coach out there. You had Allaire and, the forerunners, the OGs of the goaltending coaching position. And then over time, they sort of passed the baton to Ian Clark and Mitch Love.
I didn't know Mitch Love was a goaltending coach. Okay.
Oh, no?
No. I knew more as World Junior and assistant, and I didn't know he was a goaltender.
Am I getting Mitch incorrect?
I don't know if he may have been. I didn't.
I thought he was a goalie coach at one point.
Maybe.
Okay. He's from Quesnel.
A very, very easy guy to talk to.
Yes.
Which is why, and beloved for the most part, from what I have come to know of him. He was involved in a couple of World Junior teams, and so this news definitely struck me. Like, nothing you could have seen coming, at least in the work that I've
he's
done
been
with
placed on administrative leave, and they're investigating his behavior. So, news you did not expect to see this early on in the NHL season. There you have it. Training camp starts this week for the Vancouver Canucks. You will see press conferences. You will see, I mean, we heard from some of the players at the Jake Milford, but we will see more formal proceedings on that side. Of course, the players will report for their medicals, be put through their fitness testing. Some of that looks like it's going to happen even before training camp officially gets underway, and then you're going to have pucks and sticks on ice and training camp sessions in Penticton at the South Okanagan Event Center, albeit things move fast. As we know, training camp used to be weeks long, and now training camp is days long because the Vancouver Canucks, the bigger ones, the prospects and veterans, or at least some degree of veterans, will play the Seattle Kraken Sunday. Blake, we have NHL games.
Under a week.
Preseason is nearly upon us.
I suppose it's always like this, but there seems to be a very clear, there's three groups, Matt. Like, there is the young bucks that are probably dispersed back to junior relatively quickly, or a few of them to the ECHL. There's that middle block, especially coming off a Calder Cup season, that has some pedigree to them, right? There's a middle block there, the graduates that they hope to be graduates of the AHL to grab a roster spot, and then there's the incumbent NHLer. So there's really three different groups descending upon Canucks training camp, and all looking to grab some level of upward mobility, obviously.
I'm putting myself on ease and nose. Mitch Love is not the goaltending coach that I was thinking of.
Another Love?
Name is escaping me now. I will get there for tomorrow.
Okay.
Vancouver Whitecaps FC with a victory for the ages on Saturday night at BC Place. Like, it will be one of these, were you there the night, ... among soccer and Cap supporters in this city for some time. They set a new club record for the largest margin of victory. 7-0, they defeat the first place Philadelphia Union. It's only the, sixth time?
I think they were the seventh.
They were the seventh time that this has happened in MLS history to have a 7-goal margin. They did so before the third straight lower bowl sellout of more than 26,000. Blake and I were talking with the Thomas Müller acquisition. He's played the 3 home matches now. If they were to have played these 3 games without Thomas Müller, they're probably somewhere in the vicinity
19 to
of
20, yeah.
Yeah, 20,000 people at BC Place. With Müller there, they're 26,000 plus. So you add the 6,000 times 3, it's effectively been like an additional home gate for the Whitecaps with the amount of people that the German superstar is bringing to the yard. By the way, he turned 36 on Saturday and netted a hat trick. He's the first ever birthday hat trick in the MLS history. He's also just the 6th Cap player to record a hat trick. Brian White, his teammate, has done it twice. Ryan Gauld, his erstwhile teammate, has done it once. Then you got to go back to Christian Teixeira, Camilo, and Kakuta Mane as the other Whitecaps with hat tricks in their MLS.
Versus Seattle. Has to have been. I think it was.
Kakuta owned Seattle.
He did. I give him an outside chance of getting double-digit goals. He's got 6 matches in league play left to get 6 goals.
And he's got, 4 goals?
Yeah. So he's got
the 3 and plus the
one
one from the spot.
One.
Of course, he's had one called back in his debut. Minutes after stepping onto the pitch, he scored, but it was called back on the offside. Well, the good tidings didn't end at Thomas Müller for the Caps. 17-year-old Rayan Elloumi from Edmonton scores in his MLS debut. He had been a Whitecaps Academy player who was just called up from Whitecaps 2. His proud family in the stands as Thomas Müller gets in on the celebration and raises his hand in victory. Quite a debut, quite a night for young Elloumi to be a part of this. Sabbi scored 2 goals. We'd be talking about that as a headline. Alas, he's subhead on this night. Laborda scored the other. Berhalter with 3 assists. Ali Ahmed was dancing out there and creating space, opportunity, and chances. Jaden Nelson got in on the score sheet.
And they may have forcibly retired Alexander Bedoya,
who is a legendary MLS player, also had a great European career. Alas, was way over his head. Takaoka's 12th clean sheet of the season. He's 1 shy of David Osted's club record of 13. And the Caps are 1 win, 1 point, and 1 goal away from either tying or setting new club records for MLS play.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff. And we talk about that attendance. Like, what does it look like if they win their next road match and carry some momentum into the Portland showdown Wednesday, September the 24th? That's a Wednesday game, so that might be tougher to set the attendance high watermark for the year. October 5th versus San Jose, the penultimate game of the season. Or sorry, that's the third last game of the season. Maybe that's the one where, I think they probably, for the Portland, because it's a Wednesday match, they probably keep it lower bowl only, Matt. Mm-hmm. But the October the 5th game versus San Jose, and then October the 18th versus Dallas.
Yeah.
The last game of the season, that might be a full upper bowl opening. Not that they're going to sell it up, I just mean they might open the upper bowl there just to try to really ramp up on decision day. Could be a lot of fun, but they need the momentum. They need to keep this up to some degree. If they want the supporter shield, they're back in the driver's seat theoretically there. Fate is in their hands in terms of using up the games in hand. They could be the first place team.
Yes.
Most teams in the MLS have played 30 games or thereabouts. The leaders have.
Caps have played 28.
If the Caps win their 2 games in hand, they are the MLS Supporter Shield leaders, but they got to do that.
And the game ground on San Diego this weekend, who lost to second place Minnesota. So they're 4 back of San Diego with 2 games in hand, 2 back of Minnesota also with 2 games in hand. The other thing is they played this match minus 6 players, 2 All-Stars, White and Gauld, 2 would-be starters on the back line in Veselinovic and Adekube.
Yeah.
Philadelphia had perfect health going into this game. Now, their manager didn't dress a perfect health lineup.
Not till halftime, anyway.
Yeah, when he wanted to stem the embarrassment. Alas, the beat rolled on. And frankly, it was a heck of a Saturday for MLS at large. 57 goals on the match day, ties the most ever. 4 hat tricks on the day. Crazy. 3 other guys had hat tricks.
Yeah.
And then 51,000 people took in the San Jose LAFC's match from Levi Stadium in Santa Clara, home to the Super Bowl.
Columbus had a 5-0 lead. They almost blew it. They had a 5-0 lead at the half. It was a 5-4 final.
Caps home tomorrow for the second leg of the Canadian Championship Series, tied 2-2 with Forge FC of Hamilton. They're into Kansas City Saturday in MLS play. They're unbeaten in 4. We're going straight to penalties after 90 minutes if it's tied on the aggregate tomorrow.
Oh, that's a good question. The first leg it just expires. What is
there
overtime?
Are some odd.
Yeah, I don't think there is extra time. I think it goes to penalties. I think you're right.
Is road goals the thing here?
No more road goals. I think they canceled road goals. Yeah.
So get yourself to BC Place tomorrow, although I don't imagine Mr. Müller will play in this one tomorrow.
There's 2.
Forge is really good, though. I mean, they've gone
there's
forever.
2 theories here. Like I think you only play a couple of these guys, like Seb Berhalter and him, like 45 minutes. So the question is, do you start a very Canadian lineup, maybe even Elloumi as the striker, bring back Priso and Jeevan Badwal, put those guys in, or do you do the opposite, dress a really MLS-y sort of starting 11, try and get up a couple of goals by half, and then surf on the Canadians on the way down. One way or the other.
We'll see.
Yeah.
Thanks to all the Jeffs, Paterson, and Godley in the super chat. Mitch Korn is who I was thinking of.
Mitch Korn, yes.
Love Mitch Korn. And Jeff with the super chat, not Paterson. If Quinn Hughes doesn't sign an extension and Jim Rutherford tries to trade him, how fast does Aquilini hang up the phone when JR tries to get trade approval? That's a very good question, Jeff. My sense is that Aquilini is going to want to push this until he absolutely has to come face-to-face with the reality that the player wants to move on. We saw this with Ryan Kesler. The Canucks had a deal for Ryan Kesler at the trade deadline the summer before they wound up trading him. They were waiting on approval for Aquilini. Aquilini told his management team he thought he could change Kessler's mind. Didn't come to pass. Ryan Kesler was an Anaheim Duck. Was actually not too dissimilar a trade from what they were looking at at the deadline, although it would have been advantageous to make the move earlier. Yeah, I could see Aquilini wanting to play this out until next year's deadline when Quinn Hughes still doesn't have his name on a contract extension. It is crystal clear to everybody, and he has to make the move. I would like to think he learned from the Kesler experience. And, of course, there is still a possibility he wants to stay here, right? And they can get him signed after this year. That's why this season is so important. But yes, I could see ownership blocking that trade if that is the question.
Yeah, the Aquilini involvement in Hughes' future would be very intriguing because ultimately, on a night-to-night basis, and certainly on a season-to-season ticket basis, he brings in the crowd. Like, people show up to the barn to watch Quinn Hughes.
Absolutely.
So departures of a guy like him have an effect on the bottom line.
No doubt. No doubt. And really, there aren't many organizations out there where you would move a player of Quinn Hughes' stature without some sort of conversation with ownership. That's just smart managing up if you're the manager, because, yes, it does affect bottom line revenue, to say the least. Okay, let's get to our menu. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta, and we're going to be having some watch parties at Greta this season. Looking forward to announcing the dates and the games that will be there for the festivities. Ourselves, Canucks Conversation with David Quadrelli, Harmon Dial, RinkWide Vancouver even at Greta later this season. You're going to want to join us for that. Great spot to watch all the games, a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame. You are mere steps from the arena and stadium, and if you need a team-building event, summer sociable, end-of-season party, whatever the case may be, check out Greta. They have the fantastic menu of unpretentious street food. The poutine is decadent. The smash burger is absolutely delicious. Plus, the arcade that encircles the bar with a game for everyone. Tons of fun. Don't forget, bottomless wings, $25. Check out Greta, 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. We got JPat coming up here after the weekend that was for Canucks prospects. Plus, we'll point forward to Canucks training camp and really drill down on some of the players we saw this weekend. EPD, Lekkerimäki, Willander, and forecast. Okay, what's ahead for them? What does a good season look like for these young Canucks who are vying either for a spot on the big club or to move up the organizational ladder? So a great conversation with Jeff on all of that. Then Colin Miller, Spiky, of the Whitecaps radio broadcast, will join us. Of course, Colin, a former Canadian international player as well as a coach. And just astounding to see how easy it was for the Caps on Saturday after pass connected. Goal after goal goes in the net in that bludgeoning of Philadelphia. We'll talk to Colin about what we saw and point forward with him about what's to come in the remainder of this Cap season, including when the Scotsman Ryan Gault gets back, whenever he gets back after this 6-month kneecap injury. So very strange. Somebody texted me on the weekend, like, a kneecap injury that goes 6 months.
Yeah.
Very, very strange.
Very bizarre.
Let's get to our Bet365 bets of the day, Blake. And I was a winner on the weekend, so I'm going to go here.
Okay.
Actually, 1-1, lost one on the weekend, but we're going to say that's a winner. Monday Night Football on two fronts here tonight. Looking at that first one, Tampa at Houston. Couple of good teams here. Quite like Tampa this year. Think they should be able to score a load of points. Would not be surprised to see them play in some big games in the NFC playoffs. That said, they scraped by last week. They're into Houston, where the Texans are smarting after a narrow loss to the Rams in week 1. I'm going to take Houston, lay the 2.5 points, but I'm also two good quarterbacks here, Stroud and me. I'm going over on the total of 42.5.
Normally I wouldn't give you something with such a tight timeline, but so many of you consume us live, so you've got the time, and you've actually got an extra hour. Inexplicably, why are the Tampa Bay Rays hosting a game that starts at 8:30 5:35 local time.
They usually start games at 6:30 down there in Florida. They have taken to that over the last couple of years.
Oh, is that what it is? Am I doing my wrong math
You
here?
might have incorrect
5:35 Pacific time?
Yeah, it's 5:30. It's 4:35 Pacific. I'm showing 4:35 Pacific time, Blake. But
Okay. I've got a 5:35. But anyway, it is Trey Savage, the former Vancouver Canadian, on the bump. So I'm just going to vote with the heart. I'm going to bet with the heart for him just to get the victory. It's a strange over-under, too, of 8.5. I'm tempted on the under there, but I'll go with you, Savage, at plus 140. Let's hope he does everybody proud.
a hard-throwing prospect on the mound for Tampa as well, but he walks everybody. This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game, use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. JPat coming up next. Secure some price from the historic Wall Center. The Daily Faceoff has your back with the brand new DFO Fantasy Draft Kit, your one-stop shop for everything you need to build that perfect fantasy hockey team. We're talking player projections, updated power play combos, line combos, sleeper picks, bus warnings, team previews, basically all the tools you need to make yourself look like a genius while your friends look like they're drafting blindfolded. So before you go out and take that flyer in the 6th round, the 4th round, make sure you're boned up on the Daily Faceoff Draft Fantasy Kit. dailyfaceoff.com/draft-kit. Fantasy hockey domination starts at dailyfaceoff.com. Go now. Your bragging rights depend on it. Here's Jeff Paterson, our Canucks reporter, the host of RinkWide Vancouver. After Canucks on ice, in uniform, playing games this weekend at the Prospect Showcase. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good. And yeah, it's always good to have hockey back, even in a brief Prospects weekend showcase. And I've made this point to others. I've seen people call it a tournament. When it's two teams playing 2 games in 24 hours,
No.
that's a showcase.
Not a tournament. Not a tournament.
No trophies were presented. There was no on-ice celebration. I don't think they did players of the game or anything. It was Prospects hockey. It's exactly what it was, and the results really don't matter, although it's kind of fitting, I guess, that they split so each team can take a victory away. But it's far more about the performance of the individuals. And I caught some of both games on the stream. I didn't sit and invest hours upon hours, but certainly I've seen the highlights of the goals and read the accounts of people that were on the ground there. And it sounded like there were some real positives for the Vancouver Canucks to come out of a weekend like that one.
I want to go through a couple of the particulars here, Jeff. I'm not sure we talked about this Friday when we had you on the program, but I got to say I was a little surprised to see Elias Paterson on this team. I thought he was a fully formed NHLer after last season and after they didn't dispatch him to Abbotsford to take part in the Calder Cup playoff run. He throws a big hit in this hockey game. He looks a little bit shaken. Tell me your sense. Were you at all surprised to see him in this showcase? And what's your forecast for him this season? Where do you think he fits? What does a good season look like for Elias Paterson?
Well, first, when they put the roster out last week, that name jumped out at me only because I kind of felt that they didn't see the need to have him in Abbotsford, the Calder Cup run, but now they're sort of backtracking and playing him in a Prospects tournament. Now, I think the important thing to remember is his age here. He is still so young that he fits in with that sort of group. It's just that his development has advanced to the point where he got in 28 games at the National Hockey League level, and there was really no looking back. So I think for any of these young guys, when they're asked to play in these things, they just have to look at it as, all right, I'm going to get 2 games under my belt before I get to main camp, and hopefully I'm revved up and ready to go. And there's no real downside to it. It was kind of funny as I watched and looked through the rosters in both teams. Of course, Coachella Valley played Abbotsford early in the playoffs, and so there were a number of names I recognized on the Seattle list from Coachella Valley, so they had a bunch of their AHL guys as well. It really was a mixed bag this weekend, and I guess, like, to me, it would, I think, serve the fan base as well if the parameters were laid out clearly for who does get selected, who's allowed to play. Like, are there minimum thresholds of professional games? I was curious around young stars always about who was there and who wasn't. Like, the Canucks had a 26-year-old this weekend playing for them, a guy that had played college hockey. Didn't have a lot of pro games under his belt, but you had a 26-year-old. You had guys that like Braden Cootes that were drafted in June and were getting their first taste of anything like this. So we'll get back to DPD in a sec, but if there was one downside to the weekend, it was that Braden Cootes left the game on Saturday, didn't play on Sunday. This is a guy that wasn't able to participate in the summer showcase for the World Junior team, missed Seattle Thunderbirds training camp. We were told it was precautionary and that he should be good to go at main camp, but now you're going up against guys that have been doing this for a living. These are the best of the best. Like, is he 100%, and will he be able to put his best foot forward at main camp? So that'll be a storyline moving forward. As for DPD, I certainly have him in the mix for an NHL roster spot. And then the question is, can he advance ahead of Derek Forbort? Is he slotted in ahead of a guy like P.O. Joseph? So I've got DPD making this hockey club out of training camp, but I also wonder, like, is he a lineup guy? Is he a roster guy? How does it shake down? And certainly that's going to be one of the battles for me here moving forward is you've got the veteran in Forbort. We know what his penalty killing utility. Is he still an everyday player because of that skill set? Or has DPD advanced to the point where it's going to be a platoon situation? We know that DPD played over on the right side. I talked to P.O. Joseph the other day out at UBC, had a good chat, and I wrote about him at Canucks Army. He was quick to point out that he played on the right side at the NHL level, the AHL level, played some in junior as well, says, hey, when they ask you to do something, you do it. And so he kind of looks forward to the challenge here. He's a little bit of the forgotten man in all of this. And then, of course, you've got Mancini and Tom Willander, who it sounded like he had mixed results from this weekend south of the border. So maybe we slow the roll a little bit on Willander, but I'm all aboard the DPD train. Like, I like everything I saw from him last year. I love the development and how quickly it's come along in North America. And this guy can play. And it's just a question of, does he play every night, or is there still, I think we all know there's still some learning to be done on the job, but does he get that opportunity to do it in games, or is he going to have to be patient? And will the hockey club be patient with him to bring him along at the proper pace?
No one is going to project a poorer career of Tom Willander because he, had a tough night. But, they played a game. We look at that game, we review it, and we give our opinions on the game. He gets beaten outside. He was pinching and making some poor decisions there. I mean, he had a bad night on Saturday night. To me, it's a great time for him to have a bad night because I think he probably didn't expect maybe the speed of the game to be as good as it was. I mean, these are really high-level prospects in this game. To me, it's a great shot across the bow before main camp of, it has to be tip-top every single night.
Right. Like, I think he's a bit of an X factor because we haven't seen him play anything above college hockey, I guess the World Juniors, but in terms of turning pro. So he comes to his first camp here with an opportunity to blow the doors off people. But if it doesn't happen, that's not a big deal. This is a young player. We know that defensemen generally take a little longer to develop at the pro game. If he has to start in Abbotsford and play there and play a lot, that ultimately is probably what's best for this player, both short and long term. So I get that people have coveted a right shot defenseman through the draft and develop. We know the history with this hockey club. You got to go back to like Kevin Bieksa to find the last time that the Vancouver Canucks drafted and developed their own like every night regular in the National Hockey League. Hopefully Willander has a long career. But yeah, I just think when you look at the depth chart, when you look at waiver eligibility and those types of things, the easiest place for him to start probably is in Abbotsford. But let's give the kid a chance. Let's see what he looks like against other pros at main camp, and I'm sure he'll get a look through the preseason as well. But yeah, kind of stumbled out of the gate, if you will, for the first time wearing a Vancouver Canuck uniform. But weeks and years from now, that will be a mere footnote. I don't think anybody's going to base their projections
it won't even
on
be
Tom
that.
Willander.
It won't even be that.
It's not even that. It's not even that. If he goes on to be everything that people anticipate he will be. Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Jeff, what's your forecast for him this season? Because much like DP, I think there's a question about, I suspect he'll play this year at the NHL level, but how much? Because they may really need his scoring at some point as a natural scorer. What did you see from Lekkerimäki? What does a good season for him look like in 25-26?
Yeah, I was glad to see him score a goal. He is a goal scorer. We know that. And he did a lot of it in the regular season last year down in Abbotsford in his first year as a North American pro. I still think that there's feeling out there that maybe he underwhelmed or underachieved last year. But really, when you look at his age and his first look at pro hockey in North America, 19 goals in 36 regular season games. Like, it was a remarkable pace. And the fact that he got into NHL games and scored in the National Hockey League, I think all things considered, his first year to be around and part of the Calder Cup Championship as well, like nothing but good things for Jonathan Lekkerimäki. Now, we all know the shortened summer here, probably didn't have time to put in the work necessary to put on the pounds that will be required. But look, he's a goal scorer. He scored over the weekend. I think that's great. Just get that feeling of putting a puck in the net early in the season. The longer it goes without, the more he starts to doubt, the more people start to wonder, like, is this guy the real deal? All that kind of stuff. So I think, again, it's just a prospect showcase, but you want to see guys play to their strengths. And his strength is finding the puck in front of the net and wasting no time putting it in. So, it didn't sound like he was the best player on the ice for either team, but I just like the fact that he comes out of a weekend like that one feeling good about his goal-scoring exploits, and now really curious to see where he's slotted. This is one of the things for me, guys, heading into training camp, and it's not just Jonathan Lekkerimäki. It goes for a lot of the guys that had nice playoff runs in Abbotsford. Where are they going to be slotted? Because I think that will be a pretty good tell about what the organization is thinking. I always want to see guys like this put in a position to succeed. Remember last year, he did. He skated in camp and through the preseason with top-line National Hockey Leaguers, and I like that. They were insulating a young guy and trying to put him in a position to succeed right away. So that's going to be, as much as I look at the individual performances from the team perspective, how do they slot these guys? Like, I remember going way back, and it always felt like, Josh Holden was a first rounder, and he could never get traction at training camp. They would never play him with other good players, and I never really understood that line of thinking. But whether it's Lekkerimäki, whether it's Linus Karlsson or Archdeep Baines, Max Sasson, where are they going to slot these guys? Last year at camp, Atu Ratu was one of the darlings. He played with Höglander and Garland throughout, and he made the opening night lineup last year when Pia Suter got hurt in the preseason. So, I do think that is something that you can take away from training camp, as brief as it is organizationally, how do they look at some of these players and where do they place them on the depth chart and on the ice?
The thing with these prospects games too is, there's a big disparity in skill level. They can be a little bit messy at times, and they can be tough sometimes for skilled players like a Lekkerimäki, for instance, to really show their wares. You need sort of a separating skill sometimes, or God-given setup, like Vilmer Ulriksson, who scores maybe the goal of the weekend, going straight up the gut, using that big frame and reach to, make it impossible to take the puck off him, and scores a beautiful goal. He's an X-Factor guy, not for this year. I'm not going to get people excited for this year, but that's an exciting project, Vilmer Ulriksson, for the future. And, full professional season ahead for Ulriksson. Whether he can skip the ECHL and go straight to Abbotsford remains to be seen. But I think people should pay attention to what Ulriksson does this season, wherever he is.
Yeah, and this goes back to the times I've seen him at the summer development camps. I mean, he stands out just simply because he is so much bigger than everybody else. And you can't teach size. We know that. And so right there, he's an intriguing prospect. And, you know, when we look at the pros and the cons of this management group and the things that they've done and have they advanced the program, one area that you have to give them their flowers is mid to late round picks that they have unearthed and have been able to develop, and hopefully Ulrichson's in that group. But when I look at Kirill Kudryavtsev, or we talk about DPD, or, you know, they've found guys later in rounds that they believe in and see something there that they think can make a player into a National Hockey Leaguer. And DPD's already there. Kudryavtsev got in games late last season, and now Ulrichson. And the other thing, too, is getting to work under the tutelage of Manny Malhotra if, in fact, he sticks in Abbotsford. We know the work that Manny did last year with a player like Ty Müller. Different skill set, obviously, but I'm confident now in sort of the player development, the work that Manny can put in. And when you've got a player that has that side as a frame, you know, it's how does he use it effectively? How does he protect the puck? How does he make sure that the puck arrives at the front of the net when he does? And, you know, lean on guys to sort of create some space and separation. But yeah, I mean, for all the things you said there, Blake, absolutely. And didn't look out of place because of his size at training camp last year, got into the preseason, got in a scrap in a preseason game against Seattle. You know, when you play in the OHL and you're that big, you're going to get challenged. It sounded like he didn't back down. I think he understands that, you know, he's not going to be fighting every night, but if you're big and you're using your size effectively, hey, trouble may come and find you from time to time, and you have to be ready to fight those battles. So, yeah, you know, another year older now, has the experience of a training camp and a preseason under his belt from last year. How does he apply that? He's certainly going to be one of the guys that I watch, and fortunately, he's very easy to pick out of a crowd, even at main camp, just because of his size on skates.
Point us forward here, Jeff. Training camp week for the Vancouver Canucks. What's your understanding of everything that's going to take place this weekend when we get to Penticton?
Yeah, I mean, look, we all remember, unfortunately, the images of Ole Levy lying in the corner of the rink out in Abbotsford after the bag skate under Travis Green, OEL having his struggles as well. I heard a few of the Canuck players last week at UBC talking about getting their skating tests out of the way before main camp. So I think that some of that's going to be done behind closed doors this week. We're expecting to hear from, I think, Jim Rutherford and Patrick Elvine. That's sort of in standard practice on the eve of training camp. Last year it was in Penticton, but my understanding is that that's going to happen on Wednesday here at Rogers Arena before they make their way to the South Okanagan. And I would think Adam Foote probably is on that dais as well. And then for as much as we talk it up and we all wait all summer and we look at job openings and all those types of things, we're looking at 3 days of on ice, essentially. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. The Canucks play their first preseason game in Seattle on Sunday night. So they've got to send a team to Climate Pledge on Sunday. So really what you're looking at is Thursday and Friday, you know, full practice days. Saturday, there's going to be the scrimmage in there as well. And then they pack up and head on out of the Okanagan, and they get into the National Hockey League preseason, which is 6 games this year, including one out in Abbotsford. So it's short, it's sweet. By this time next week, we'll have a preseason game to digest and break down. Forget about what happened late into the training camp weekend. So look, they're going to try to cover as much ground as they can with a new head coach and a new coaching staff. But we know that Adam Foote, a disciple of Rick Tocchet, I would think that training camp will look and feel a lot like the kind of camp that Tocchet conducted. I think it's a positive that it's in Penticton, and for Adam Foote, you're just removing variables as a first-year guy. You know, he's familiar with the building. He knows where the meeting rooms are. He knows where the lounge. Like, it may sound stupid to say, but I think if you can just remove any of those sort of obstacles so that he can put all of his focus into what goes on the ice, then I think that sets up a rookie head coach to have a successful first training camp.
Now, I'm interested in hearing more from Foote. We've barely heard from him since the introductory press conference, not to mention seeing if he gives us any clues, tips in terms of how he wants to play. And then you mentioned battles, Jeff. Fourth line winger, I think, Carlson, Lekkerimäki, Sasson, Baines, Kraftsov, all vying there. Probably going to keep a spare forward as well. And then I think you hit it earlier, DPD Forbert and Pierre-Olivier Joseph in terms of who's going to play third pair on what side and who will be the scratch on opening night. If they stay healthy, is that it? Is that it in terms of training camp battles? Do you see anything else afoot there?
No, I mean, I think Ratu is penciled in as one of their 4 centers, so that puts a little pressure on him to hold up his end of the bargain. And again, he had a really good training camp last year, and I hope that that's fresh in his mind, even though 12 months have passed. But, he knows the approach that worked for him last year, so I hope he's able to bring that in. I've had people asking me about, what's he looked like out at UBC. Again, they're informal summer skates, but he doesn't look limited in any way because, of course, the last time we saw him, he wasn't playing out in Abbotsford with the 2 injuries that he suffered in the Calder Cup playoffs. So I'm curious to talk to him. I haven't had that opportunity yet, but he is one of the guys that I certainly hope to get some time with up in Penticton just to find out a little bit about his offseason. But I would put that on the list, Matt, that, if it isn't going the way that he and the Canucks want, then what? Which brings us back to the broader question about depth down the middle for this hockey club. But yeah, in terms of absolute jobs to be won, I think you laid it out there that, fourth line wing spot, I would give Linus Karlsson the inside track based on the terrific playoff that he had and the fact that he has played a little bit for the organization in the National Hockey League. And also, I wonder if he can be one of these sort of newer age players that can play on the fourth line, but could also slot in on the second line power play and be that net front guy that he had so much success in the playoffs, scoring a lot of goals in and around the blue paint. So I could sort of see that as the role. Arshdeep Bains gives you what he can, but there has been zero bottom line at the NHL level. And he was slow to get going in the playoffs last year, arrived ultimately, and turned out to be one of the top scorers for Abbotsford on the run to the championship. But it's at a point where he can't just get into NHL games any longer. Like, if he's going to contribute, even if it's in the fourth line, like, I'm not expecting big numbers, but it can't just be 1 point in however many games he's played to this stage of his brief NHL career. So I would put Karlsson slightly ahead of Bains. Sasson is still waiver exempt, and that probably works against him right out of the gate. And the other thing to keep in mind here, guys, is because of waivers, I wonder if they start the season with 14 forwards and 7 defensemen, as opposed to, as we've seen in the past, 13 forwards, the 1 extra forward, but 2 spare defensemen. Of course, that makes it easier to practice when you've got 4 defensive pairs, and you can just run through some of the things like that. But in the early going, until the dust fully settles here, I wonder if it's easier for them to keep a couple of the guys up front that require waivers to get through. And so it wouldn't shock me if this year they started the year with 14.
Sasson and Lekkerimäki are waiver exempt. The other 3.
Bains has got to get above the Mendoza line, which in Canuck parlance is the Nils Amon line, who, by the way, still exists for the Vancouver Canucks, Nils Amon. But yeah, you can't just play. You do need to periodically contribute. Rather than winning jobs, I think winning roles is going to be just as important. And we always caution that, not to overanalyze what we see in drills. And yet, Jeff, I've come to the conclusion now at this late stage in my life. Coaches do line rushes in training camp that they are more often than not pretty committed to for the opening month of the season at the very least. And yeah, do they change them throughout the games? Yes, they do. But it is pretty much the default position by sort of day 2 of training camp. The line rushes that you see, sort of what he wants, because it is so short. So he wants to take a good look at what he thinks is likely the best setup for his squad. So, they can say, oh, don't read into anything what I'm doing. It is often what they go with on opening night.
Well, look, nothing happens by chance at this level, first and foremost. So you're right. Everything's done with design. The only caveat there is sometimes a young player like Lekkerimäki, they want to put him higher in the lineup so that he does have an opportunity, even though they knew that he wasn't going to make the team last year out of camp. But for the most part, like last year, Ratu was between Garland and Höglander, and I think they saw that as a legitimate possible third line. And they played some games early on because Pia Suter was hurt. Once he got back, then things changed there. Just sort of further to this, I guess a guy like Kravtsov to me is going to be under the microscope. Like, he cannot dip his toe into training camp. He can't rest on the laurels of being the 6th leading scorer last year in the KHL. So, he has to show that he means business. And I think it's fascinating. I was out at UBC twice last week, and they had the veterans and the guys that are fully under contract. They skated in one group, And then players like Nils Oman and Kravtsov and others were in the second group of the day. And so I'm not sure who's making up the two groups and who gets, who makes the grade and who doesn't. But I just thought it was interesting that Nils Oman, who's been here, has played in the NHL, played with this group, he wasn't part of the first group of the day, either day that I was out there. And so this comes back to, where do they slot him? Like, you want to give Kravtsov an opportunity. Maybe he's a changed man. He's 2 years older. He's had some success. Maybe he comes in with some confidence that he didn't have the last time around. But do they slot him with other AHL guys that are true AHLers? And what can you take from that? So, yeah, look, at some point this week, we will get... we still don't have, full daily schedules. We don't have the groups and the way that they're going to skate. But at some point this week, all of that will become public, and I think we probably can read into some of it.
Excellent. Look forward to it, Jeff. Look forward to Friday. We'll be at Yellow Dog in Penticton doing the program and attending training camp. We'll have you back then. Thanks for this.
All right, have a great week, and we will see you in Penticton.
So here's some price from the Historic Wall Center. This next interview in this show brought to you by Simply Spiked.
It is indeed the brand that can do no wrong for you at your next hangout with friends, family, or otherwise, because variety is the spice of life.
Indeed.
And you have so much to choose from with Simply Spiked. 3 different variety boxes to choose from: the lemonade, the limeade, the peach. But even within that, it's like Inception. You've got 3 more flavors within that. You're never bored. So tasty, made with real juice, 5%. Perfect for a session, shall we say, of
in the backyard,
good
with
company,
family,
good
on the
chats.
deck.
So social are the people at Simply Spiked. So make sure you go check it out. Find your favorite flavor and pick it up at your local government or private liquor store. Must be legal drinking age. And please celebrate responsibly.
When you win a match 7-0, your largest margin of victory ever, to punch a ticket for the playoffs, and your new star scores a hat trick on his birthday, we figured there'd be a lot of fawning praise for Vancouver Whitecaps FC. And of course, fawning praise sounds better in a Scottish accent.
Everything does.
As we welcome in our dear friend Colin Miller, who calls Whitecaps games with Asa Raymond on CKNW.
I'm only sad that we will not have to talk about squeaky bum time, because there was none of that today or on the weekend. None of it.
Hi, Colin. How are you?
Hello, Matt. Blake, it's great to be on the show. Thank you for having me. I've got to say, the introduction of that Simply Spiked.
That's right up your alley. You're
yeah,
spiky.
absolutely.
Simply spiky right here.
Spiky.
You know what? I feel thirsty already. It's
Well, I'm sure you had a wee dram after Saturday night, Colin. One of your keys to victory was toughest match of the season, toughest test for the Caps, right?
Matt, it's so true. I mean, that was... I do 3 keys for every game with the Whitecaps, and that was number 1. I genuinely said that this would be the Whitecaps' toughest test of the season, given the placement of where Philadelphia are in the league. They're the highest team in the standings, so rightly so, that you would think. And I do, for every game, I do 3 reports on the opposition that we play. So I get to know their starting lineups and what's the highlights and so on and so forth. So it's pretty detailed in the preparations, as you guys know, in this industry. But and in no way, shape, or form did I ever see anything like this sort of result happening. And it was thoroughly deserved. But we were speaking off the air, and I actually blame the manager, Bradley Cornell, for the Philadelphia manager, for the result. And not just the pounding that the Whitecaps gave him, but for how long it took for the manager to make some changes within the side. But great, take nothing away from the Vancouver Whitecaps. Goodness me, from the first whistle to the last, in total control. A wonderful night. No failures in the team, to be honest with you. Everybody contributed in some way. It was just a terrific team performance.
Tell me about Müller's night. What was he able to do out there to affect the proceedings?
Yeah, you know what, Matt? When you watch him, it's actually like a coach's clinic. And I've said to all the people out here in Abbotsford, I'm the technical director of the Abbotsford Soccer Association. So all the kids, all the boys and girls that go to the Whitecaps games, and our coaches as well, watch what Thomas Müller does. Not always in possession of the football, but what he does off the ball. He's constantly moving. His head is like an owl. His head is constantly on the move. He's scanning. He's just so far ahead in terms of his football awareness. Now he's 36. He turns 36. He turns 36 on Saturday there, but you would never know it. His awareness, and so much now is upstairs in between the ears, and being so quick ahead of the game. That's the key at the next level of football, and it's probably why Thomas has been such a legend in the game for so long.
I also love the fact that he has been there and done everything. Therefore, in big moments, of course, there's not as many nerves. He slotted home those PKs, and we've seen him now. Like he wasn't a notable striker per se. We know he scored a ton of goals in his career, but he wasn't a striker, and yet he hits the ball so well, even at his advanced age. Yeah. Even when the goalie guesses right, it's just you're not catching up to that ball. His headed finish, just perfect and clinical. A casual layoff on the Sabbi goal to create that one. There's just no moment that is too big for him, right? So having that for the playoffs, so big for the Whitecaps, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's massive. It's the game changer. We've had the game changer in the past, and it's been Ryan Gauld. And unfortunately, wee man has suffered, hopefully not a season-ending injury. We're here that he's coming back in training now. But when you have a player in your team that is the game changer in any sport, then you have a chance to win. And now the Whitecaps, they're not solely reliant on Thomas, but he is the difference when we're under a bit of pressure, like stepping up, as you said there, Blake, to take the penalty. I mean, he's got two different run-ups. One is a straightforward strike through the football, and the other one is that kind of stutter step that I don't like because I think it kind of knocks you off balance. But he scores the winner a couple of weeks ago, or the last home game against St. Louis, and he rockets it just underneath the crossbar centrally. And these two penalties on Saturday night versus Philadelphia, one is a straightforward run-up, strike it in the bottom left-hand corner as he's looking at the ball. And the second one is the stutter movement. So the goalkeeper's kind of, what's he going to do here at this moment in time? So there's even a variety in how he takes a penalty. So it's not always, he takes a stutter and then he strikes it. The first one may have thrown the goalkeeper off because of how well it was struck. Now, his technique is wonderful as well.
And the goalkeeper, I believe, was just called up from the Abbotsford Soccer Association as well. That didn't seem fair. He looked like he was 11 years of age.
Yeah, he didn't look old enough to be out that late, did he?
No, I didn't.
He's got Thomas Müller bearing down on him.
Yeah, exactly.
Colin, as mentioned, this victory clinched them a playoff spot, but more so than setting them up for the postseason. I mean, that was a matter of time. We knew they were in. It was only a matter of when it was actually going to come down. And it actually came down before they even kicked off there because results around MLS. What I'm most interested in is what this sets them up for in this market, my friend. That is a third straight lower bowl sellout at BC Place. It seems that there is all sorts of enthusiasm for the club and to see Thomas Müller play. I mean, there were some spectacular scenes from the concourse of BC Place after the victory on Saturday evening. Take a look at the Couch Ultra supporter group there and the party that's going on as they depart the stadium. What do you think all this winning and this player can do in terms of Vancouver, the socket market? I wasn't around, but I'm getting 79 vibes here, Colin.
Yeah, I'll tell you, and I was, Matt, I was around in those times. My family, we were season ticket holders at the Whitecaps at Empire Stadium, so we were around there. And there are shades of what's going on now that what went on back then. First of all, the Whitecaps have been good this season. They've been good without Thomas Müller, without Sam Adekugbe, without even Ranko Veselinovic now has come in, and of course Goldie. The team has deserved to be where they are at this moment in time because they've played very, very good football. One of the key things, and I'm big on defending the structure of the organisation, but this is a very, very entertaining team to watch. You have wingers and wide midfield players who genuinely want to run and take on defenders. And we haven't had that since Alphonso Davies when he played in the wide areas. And doing it with quality. I mean, Ali Ahmed, poor Alejandro Bedoya, who used to play for Rangers, but he was a winger. Mind you, the way Rangers are playing at the moment, he could still get in the team.
He could probably still get there. Yeah, exactly.
He'd be a star in our Rangers team at the moment. But Ali Ahmed, he must have been rubbing his hands, because right from the outset, I said on air to Asa Raymond, I said, by the way, this is not going to end well for Alejandro Bedoya, because Ali Ahmed has destroyed a number of fullbacks, as we've seen this season with the Whitecaps. And then you look at the other side, we've got Manuel Sabbi, who's he's a different type of player. He's more of a poacher. He scored some very good goals for us, but still got incredible plays. And then you take Sabbi off and you bring Jaden Nelson on. And as a former fullback, I'd be going, oh my dear, I'd be saying bad words. Here's another one who's even faster. He's even more dangerous coming on. So the embarrassment of riches that we have in the wide areas, it's a very, very difficult team to defend against. And then that you're not even talking about, I mean, you've got Brian White missing on Saturday as well. So you've got these players still to come back into the team. It's a terrific squad. If someone's having an off night, we can replace that, and that hasn't always been the case with the Whitecaps.
Eddie Ocampo in that wide group as well, charging up from the fullback position. So much fun to watch. It also
Sabbi and Berhalter are tremendous too. I mean, 2 goals, 3 assists nights would normally be our headlines,
right,
Colin.
Right, exactly.
Page 2.
Or this story, young Rayan Elloumi, who came in with a goal contribution per match for Whitecaps 2, 11 goals, 7 assists in 18 matches for the farm system. And they call him, and everybody was saying, this guy's legit. He's 17 years of age, but this is a real prospect here that people could envision getting a selfie in the not too distant future, maybe rivaling Alphonso Davies. That's the kind of conjecture that fans are saying online at the very least. Well, don't you know, of course, in his first match, he jumps into the fray late and gets a fabulous flick on goal set up by Seb Berhalter. That again, that's the top story on any other night. It gets lost in a 7-0 win, but I mean, this kid is looking like he's for real here, Colin.
Yeah, I agree 100%, Blake. I think that you can see the Whitecaps system coming through the club is working. You know what the lads are doing in the MLS2 team. There's a lot of information, a lot of quality coming through, and they're getting a chance. Jesper Sorensen, the Whitecaps manager, is not afraid to play these young guys. But the quality of the goal he scores, Blake, sums up just how you've described him. That's not an easy header. That's an instinctive header from a big unit of a centre forward. And if he's 17, I wouldn't mind a couple of plates of what he's been eating, because he's going to be a real handful to play against. I thought he started the game. There's a very difficult ball that got played up to him right away, and he fought off the centre back that was picking him up, and he kept the Whitecaps in possession of the football. That to me tells me right away that, first of all, he knows the role of the number 9, the centre forward, where first and foremost he must keep his team in possession of the football when the ball gets played up to him. And then after that, he looked a threat. He genuinely looked a threat. He looks quick for a young lad, and he's only going to get better. That's the amazing thing. He's in an environment there where, as the manager, he's not afraid to play them, and that hasn't always been the case either. We haven't always had the bravery to go and throw young players in. And you look at how overall with the season, Elloumi is one example when, throw him in. Sure, you're winning 5-0 or whatever it was at the time, guys. Yes, it's easy to do it at that point, but the injuries and players being away for different reasons, and then the young guys coming in to fill in those spots, and the team still to be doing as well as it has been doing, I think speaks volumes.
I wonder if Jesper's tempted to start him tomorrow versus Forge.
Well, I mean, why not? Why not? He's been scoring goals at a very good level, the MLS2, sure. And then it'll be a good test tomorrow night for the Whitecaps against Forge. Forge are a good side. They're well coached. It's been one of the best CPL franchises since its inception. Sorry, and they didn't look out of place when the Whitecaps played them in Hamilton recently. But tomorrow night, the Whitecaps will need to be at it for sure, because I've been there as the manager of FC Edmonton. When I've come into BC Place, we've drawn against the Whitecaps in the Canadian Championship, and we should have beaten them a couple of times in Edmonton. So the Whitecaps still have to address this one properly. But throwing the young guy in, I don't think it does us any harm at all. Daniel Rios, for me, is the one who hasn't quite hit the ground running. We haven't given him a lot of service, but he's missed a couple of chances. The one on Saturday night, it's just a tap-in. I mean, it's
just a tap-in. Yeah.
Well, and 2-2 on the aggregate against Forge FC, who had this huge unbeaten streak in CPL this year. So Colin's right. This isn't your average bear from one level below. As for Rayan Elloumi, we just showed the photo. I mean, 17 years old, your first big professional match, and there's Thomas Müller racing your hand in victory.
He gave a charge
after a goal. I mean, that's got to be pretty heady stuff for the 17-year-old
I don't know if you saw
Edmonton.
it, but he gave this charming interview with Sarita Patel of the Whitecaps. You can find it on social media, folks. And he was asked about that, and he's just speechless. He's like, I played with this guy on FIFA.
And there he is.
And now he's giving me passes and telling me to go celebrate longer in the corner. Like it's just amazing.
Yeah, it really is. It's a breath of fresh air, isn't it? You know.
For all these guys, Colin, like there's got to be pinch me moments left, right, and center here since Muller got there.
Yeah.
Last question for you, my friend. We spoke with Jesper Sorensen on Friday. He said, "Look, no Ryan Gauld this week. It's a busy week for the Caps. Home tomorrow against Forge FC, Canadian Championship semi, BC Place, then off to Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City, one of the great environments in MLS, on Saturday to face SKC. How do they integrate your fellow countryman, the working class MVP, Ryan Gauld, when he's good to go? How do they integrate him after such a long layoff, Colin, but also how do they play him on the pitch with Müller?
Yeah, that's a great question, because who do you take out of the team when the team's playing that well? But the great thing for me, I think he'll maybe play on the left-hand side, and the Whitecaps have rotated, whether Ali Ahmed, he can go right side or left side, Manuel Sabbi. I think he'll take one of those two wide places, but give him a wee bit more of a free ride. We'll not see him as a winger per se, but I think he'll stay involved. I don't see Jesper Sorensen changing the system. I think the system looks very good at the moment, and Cootes and Berhalter for me are untouchable. That's that stability, that steel in the middle of the park is so important. So I see him slotting in somewhere in the wide areas, because Brian White comes in as the number 9. You've got Thomas Müller, who's irreplaceable. So it has to be one of those two wide areas for me. And I don't think the team skips a beat in any way, shape or form. And it just getting them back, if we can get them back in time for the playoffs, get them some minutes and get them back into the swing of things, it's genuinely like signing a new DP that gets it.
Yeah. How many games would you want him to play before the playoffs, Colin?
Yeah,
ideally?
You know, he's missed a lot of football, guys, as we know. I think it's
6 months.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
It really is. But I can't imagine him being out troughing in every day, eating everything that he could possibly eat. He's a full class professional. So and the Whitecaps, their sports scientists, their fitness people are top of the tree. So he'll come back, and he'll come back when he's ready. He has to get a few inter-squad games. I don't see him getting risked in an MLS2 game. I just see him playing in amongst the guys until he gets at least, I'd say, 15, 20 minutes in him a couple of times, and then we throw half a game at him, and then before you know it, he's good to go for at least 6
It's still 6 weeks till the playoffs. I don't see him starting in the regular season. I think he's probably not starting till the playoffs, but they can give him a couple of half-hour spells and that sort of thing. But, I mean, it's 6 more weeks. Yes. That should be doable. Given he's training for an hour with his mates now, that seems pretty doable that he can be there for the playoffs.
Yes, absolutely, because as a manager, you'd want 6 or 7 weeks anyway of your preseason. Yeah. You know, that's what you'd be looking at, Blake. And he's got a wee head start because he's back in training with the first team now. Although he wasn't involved in the set plays, Asa told me on Friday. But he's now training, and he's now in amongst the team. He's playing on the team that's not starting, if you like, to make up the numbers. So that tells me that he's over that first hurdle, but they won't risk him in terms of jumping and doing anything that he has to do. Let's get him fit. Let's get him doing what he has to. Let's get him achieving what he has to achieve before he can really be considered. But they won't take any chances on the wee man. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely believe that he's on the right path here. Now, I'll touch wood when I say it. But if we can get him, as you say, Blake, because with the greatest respect, the lads are going to have to get used to him as well.
Yes.
Getting back into the team because it's fairly settled, the squad.
Mm-hmm. Exciting times to be a Whitecaps supporter or fan. Have a great call this week. Colin, thank you for the time here today, sir. All the best.
Absolute pleasure to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sekeres and Price from the historic Walser game night. Make it a game weekend. Turn that ticket into a downtown getaway with a special Sekeres and Price rate here at the Wall Center. Call 604-331-1000. Say you heard it here. Some blackout date supply based on availability. The BC Lions with a thorough statement victory when they sure needed one. 38-27, and it was not that close. They beat Ottawa Friday night before 19,000 at BC Place. BC scores on 6 of its first 8 possessions, including 4 touchdowns in the first 4 drives.
That was an hysterical start to the game. Both sides were scoring. Like the defense was a little suspect at the very outset.
Old school CFL. They're just
back and forth.
Nathan Rourke accounts for 3 touchdowns, throws for 300 yards. Mathieu Betts with 4 of the Lions' 6 sacks for a defense that was good enough, but still not confidence-inspiring.
Yeah.
The win moves BC to 6-7 and firms up their grip on the crossover playoff berth. This because Toronto beats Edmonton to have the Elks fall back. Lions also now tied with Winnipeg at 6-7, but behind on the tiebreaker there. They cannot win that tiebreaker. Winnipeg has already won the season series, but they're 1 up on Toronto, 2 up on Ottawa in the crossover chase. They also lead the Edmonton Elks and have that tiebreaker in hand. There is still 1 game left against the Elks, who are 5-8 and 1 game back of BC, but they have to have a superior record to finish ahead of them in the standings, even if they win the head-to-head remaining.
It's a long season, 18-game season in the CFL. They have 5 games left. Like, go 4-1. Show that you are a good team. Guess what, folks? Good teams are the ones that win the Grey Cup. If you are a good team, go 4-1.
And I was talking to somebody at the game on Friday, reminding me that BC has a history of teams that just sneak in and wind up making it to the Grey Cup. They're off to Calgary on Friday night to face the Stampeders. It's the second of a CFL Friday night doubleheader, and oddly, this is the first game against the Stampeders this season, coming late in the schedule. You say win the next 5, Blake. Well, that's 2 against Calgary. That's 1 at Regina against the Riders, who did lose this weekend.
To be the best, you got to beat the best.
As well as the Edmonton and the Calgary. The Edmonton and the Toronto games. One left against the CFL East Division, and the Riders just lost a home game to Montreal, so not impossible. James Butler leads the CFL in rushing. He's 11 yards away, poised to eclipse 1,000 yards, and Keon Hatcher leads the league in receiving, poised to eclipse 1,200 yards on Friday with those 4 sacks. Betts moves into a tie for the league lead with 8. Sad news from the CFL on Friday as former UBC head coach and current Tiger Cats general manager Ted Govea loses his battle with cancer at age. He was just 55 years old. Had a illustrious history coaching in the U Sport ranks at Mount Allison University in New Brunswick, McMaster, and Hamilton before coming out here to UBC and then making his way as a Canadian Football League executive, where he was the assistant general manager for some fantastic Winnipeg teams, got the promotion to Hamilton. Very sad news. The league from coast to coast mourning Govea's loss. NFL Week 2, where the Seahawks get a road win against ex-mate DK Metcalf, Aaron Rodgers, and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And a rather sketchy start for them as well, as they just
the cleanest game.
Oh my God! Well, the second half was quite good, but the first half with the picks that Sam Darnold is giving up, they deserved a lead at the half. They gave it to the Steelers instead, and then righted the ship in the second half. I thought the second half was pretty good.
Well, the Steelers get a huge play, 65 yards to running back Jalen Warren. They're poised to score. Seattle gets a pick in the end zone. And then the game really turns when Steelers rookie return man Caleb Johnson touches but doesn't recover a kickoff. And, son, that's a live ball whether you touch it or not if it stays in the field of play.
He did the shoulder check and was like, that's going through the end zone.
Yeah, no,
except
it
didn't.
Hawks jump on it at the back of the end zone for a score that really iced the game. Kenneth Walker rushes for 100 yards. He gets a late score to seal it. Sophomore defensive tackle Byron Murphy, probably his best day as a pro. First rounder from last year, 1.5 sacks, 5 tackles. They got some fantastic contributions on defense. Tyrese Knight, their sophomore linebacker, bounced back from a tough opening week. Darian Kendrick, a veteran NFL defensive back. They played nickel a lot. He was on the field a lot. Graded out very well.
I hear this is a real simple observation. Like analysts 101 here. They tackle well. Like it's just, even when the opposition gets beyond the line of scrimmage, it seems like they've got more guys on the field at that point, and they tackle. They limit the damage. It's really nice to see.
And that's going to be pronounced against a team like Pittsburgh because they're going to have some heavy ball carriers who are accustomed to breaking tackles in a Mike Tomlin offense. And we talked about how Seattle needed this one because the rest of the NFC West all won their openers, and we're all playing weaker opponents this weekend. And sure enough, they all won again. Rams went into Tennessee and won a football game. San Francisco with backup quarterback Mac Jones went into New Orleans and won a football game. And then Arizona took care of business at home.
The last place
against
Seahawks.
Carolina. So 1-1, you're still last place.
Yeah.
They do get an easier draw next week. They host the New Orleans Saints, who may just be the worst team in football. Should be one of their easier games of the season. Poor Joe Burrow. The Bengals quarterback has surgery on an injured toe. It's going to be a 3-month recovery timeline.
I think that the two teams that have predominantly orange and black, the two Ohio teams, are cursed.
Brown, but yes.
They
are cursed. Yeah,
I think the two of them are just cursed.
Well, backup quarterback Jake Browning led them to a victory over the Jaguars. Philly beats KC again in the Super Bowl rematch. Dallas beats the Giants on a thriller with a gargantuan field goal to send that game to overtime. Indy over Denver after the Broncos penalty gives the Colts a second crack at the game-winning field goal. That was an outstanding game. I found myself watching more Colts-Broncos than Eagles and Chiefs. Eagles and Chiefs were a bit of a slog. Colts-Broncos was peppy. It was fun.
The last
2-0 Indianapolis for the first time in forever.
I thought that the two final games of the season, of the night that had sort of spotlight on, the Eagles-Chiefs and then the Sunday nighter itself, were terrible.
No,
I thought
a lot
they were
of
pretty
field goals
unwatchable
on Sunday Night Football after the thriller last week. So Kansas City 0-2, as are the Saints, Panthers, Bears, Giants, Titans, Browns, Dolphins, Jets. One of those things is not like the other.
They finally went downfield, though. Patrick Mahomes finally had a long completion after people getting on that stat. But still, he only throws for 187 yards. I know they don't have the best receiving core.
No, they don't.
But, I mean, if you're Kansas City, I mean, getting a receiver midseason is maybe the easiest thing to do.
Well, I wonder if things continue to go south for Miami, they're going to bring Tyreek Hill back.
That's the first thing everybody's thinking.
Houston can join the 0-2 group if they don't beat Tampa tonight. Pretty good-looking Monday nighter on paper, and it's a doubleheader Monday nighter. Chargers and Raiders as well, both teams having won their opener for Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh. Fun coaching matchups in that division as well.
If Pete Carroll had landed anywhere else, I would cheer him on a little bit. And Gino, I'd sort of be like, yeah, good for them. I cannot do it for the Raiders. I cannot kind of cheer for the Raiders.
You're not committed to excellence. Just win, baby.
I can't. Any other team, I would sort of keep an eye on those two. Can't do it.
You didn't ask me about the Bears.
For the second week in a row, I am just going to politely sidestep the topic.
Very well done. We're on to Dallas.
I saw somebody running down Chicago sports on Twitter.
They only gave up 52 points.
Chicago sports, like the White Sox are perennial 100-loss teams.
Hey, the Cubs are going to the playoffs.
The Bulls are like the epitome of 500 NBA basketball at best. Blackhawks are in a terrible spot. Like
Northwestern football getting destroyed on a weekly basis. Yeah, it's not a great
Cubbies
time.
and only the Cubbies.
Yeah. Both the Jays and the M's sweep their weekend series and firm up holds on playoff spots. Seattle has won a season high 9 straight now. Swept the 7-game homestand. They lead the AL West by 1 game over Houston. It's only the 6th time in franchise history where they've led the division in September and the first time since 2001. They're also a Major League Baseball best 23-9 at T-Mobile. Since the All-Star break, George Kirby sets a new career high with 14 strikeouts, and Cal Raleigh swats his 54th home run to tie Mickey Mantle for the most by a switch hitter. He will undoubtedly break that mark with what's left of the season. Not to be outdone, the Jays have won 4 straight, improved to a season best 25 games over 500. Best team in the American League.
8 of 9, too. Almost back-to-back 4-game winning streaks here. So
4-game lead over the New York Yankees in the AL East, looking good for a bye into the second round. The divisional series of the Major League Baseball postseason. Thrilling comeback victory Saturday and an exciting night tonight in Tampa, Florida, where former Vancouver Canadian and top prospect Trey Yesavage gets his first Major League start. The Jays promoting their first-round draft pick from 2024. Of course, he began the year in Single-A Dunedin, 1 stop below Vancouver, then made his way through the C's, AA, AAA, and into a Major League Baseball look-see prior to the postseason.
I can't believe they're starting him, Matt.
Yeah, and apparently no innings limit, pitch count, workload limited either. He's a very different kind of pitcher, thrower, the mechanics. You'll see that tonight. I saw one thread yesterday liken him a little bit to former Blue Jay starter Juan Guzman in terms of it's kind of a herky-jerky,
over the top,
really pronounced over-the-top delivery Yesavage has. 3.12 ERA over 4 minor league stops this year, 160
strikeouts just leaps off the page. Like
he relies on the punch out. He was 1-0 with a 156 ERA over 4 starts here with the C's, and then they were like, this guy is too good for the Northwest League. Let's promote him. Toronto, Tampa in a 4-game set. Seattle starts the series in Kansas City tomorrow. Jace will be in Kansas City right after that later this week. And there'll be lots of eyes on Yesavage, of course, tonight at Nat Bailey Stadium, where he's got friends and former co-workers. And I do believe the C's may even have some plans afoot for Blue Jays postseason watch parties.
Very fun.
In the month of October. Get in on tickets for next year at the Nat, 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. We talked about this Friday, but Canada at the World Track and Field World Athletics Championships was going to rely on BC for some medals, and sure enough, BC, and specifically Richmond, British Columbia, delivering 2 world champions over the course of the weekend. Cameron Rogers defends her Olympic gold in the hammer throw to win the world title. And then our buddy Evan Dunphy, 34 years old,
friend of the show,
had already made his way into coaching. He wins the 35-kilometer race walk for his first world title to go with a couple of bronze medals from the Olympics and the Worlds. Evan, one of the good guys in Canadian sport, an emotional interview with the CBC where he tells kids never to quit on their dreams. Talked about how the $70,000 first place purse, Blake, is change his life money as he settles into a new place with his fiancée. Absolutely delighted for Evan to have that sort of shine on that sort of stage. Congrats, buddy. Rugby Canada The beat goes on for the Canadian women.
They were done
at the World Cup in England.
I watched this match. It was fabulous. It was like, just for reference, folks, watch the semifinal. This is good entertainment. Like, I actually preferred it to watching a sevens match, but it had that level of athleticism and like the running. The Canadian women are just so athletic. They're fast. De Goody in the middle there, big De Goody. She can absolutely.
She's from Victoria,
and she can run as well, despite being statuesque and huge. She's a force. It's amazing fun.
Well, and the other thing is Canada's just not winning these matches. They're blowing people out. Here are the score lines at the World Cup: 65-7, 42-0, 40-19. And then 46-5 over the Australia.
Yeah. It was.
That's the good news.
Yeah.
The bad news is they take on New Zealand now.
That might be better than England, though. That might be
the
the better
rugby
semi.
nation. They take on the Kiwis in Bristol, England on Friday. The winner will play the winner of the other semi between England and France.
I actually think this is the better draw. I think it's the better draw. I think England's top.
I will defer to your knowledge on women's rugby. All I know is if you go through and beat Australia, New Zealand, and then one of England, France for the title, you have run the gamut of rugby nations there. Well done to the Canadian
really good crowd,
ladies.
too. It's a good atmosphere.
Yeah, we talked about four British Columbians on that team. And then the Man Cup, where the Six Nations Chiefs survive a seventh game, defeat the new Salmon Bellies at Queen's Park Arena for their third consecutive Man Cup championship. They're calling it a dynasty unlike any other in lacrosse. Congratulations.
Apparently the atmosphere there
was terrific. Yeah, saw some of the scenes from the Queen's Park Arena. Quite a classic old barn. Congratulations to the Six Nations Chiefs. Poll question results. Redwoods Golf Course poll question results from Friday asked you, will you be satisfied if the Canucks rely on low-scoring wins to make the playoffs? People said
yes.
Correct. Percentage?
65.
72. Aaron says no, it is the entertainment business. Very simple, but very true, Aaron. I hear you. Didn't get a name here. Winning 2-1 games all season would be fine. When those boring games turn into a string of losses, though, that gets management fired. Yeah, perhaps we didn't spend as much time talking about the downside of playing low-scoring games is that you bore the heck out of your patrons, particularly your paying patrons. Cam says definitely they're going to have to. This setup can get them in the playoffs, but they'll need to score if they want to win in the playoffs. I think that's very fair. Cam Drew says it will be a little boring to watch, but if it helps us win and keep Quinn, I'm all for it. And Dan says good practice for the low-scoring playoff games.
Well, that's the thing. Like they say, you got to score in the playoffs. I mean, obviously, you do need to score goals to win, but good goaltending. We've said it. You know, a lot of the Cinderella runs in the playoffs are based on a goaltender standing on their heads, and the Canucks have two candidates for that. It's a good thing to have.
Errors and omissions from from Friday's program and beyond. I have a couple of them here. We were wondering where this Sunday game was. It was at the Kraken's practice facility.
Mm-hmm. And there were some people there, but not a lot. So I don't know how they did tickets. Maybe only at the door or something.
And when we were talking about Ryan Gauld's future with Vancouver Whitecaps FC late last week, should have noted he's got 2 years left on his contract. So if he wants to be here for 2 years and the Whitecaps want him for 2 more years, he'll be here for 2 more years.
Todd and Marpole also has something from last week, going back to our flag discussion.
Oh, with the New Zealand and Australian flags.
Yes. We dealt with that one, but similar. He says the most confusing flags on the planet are the virtually identical Monegasque,
yep,
and Indonesian flags.
Oh.
They didn't consult each other. They're basically the same, both horizontal red stripe over a horizontal white stripe.
Yes.
Super interesting. Monaco's is a
There's
fourth.
so many flag color combinations and logos available out there.
The Monegasque flag is 4-5 ratio, and Indonesia's a 2-3 ratio.
Yeah.
That's the only thing separating them.
That was Todd.
Yeah.
Thank you, Todd. And thank you for joining us, spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Follow on social. That's X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And, of course, support the community sponsors you hear us talking about and keep it local.